So let's go to our session. Charlotte Bax is our first speaker of this morning in this track 2. Charlotte started out as a regular WordPress hobby blogger, but has grown as the Netherlands' top voice in sustainable web design. And she is a big fan of sustainability in all general manners. With their company, DigiOrbit, she helps social entrepreneurs and organizations to make their websites more sustainable. She's also the CEO of NOR Toolbox for Online Sustainability, a young climate tech startup that builds software to measure CO2 emissions of websites and web applications. And we are talking about sustainability. And I was shocked to know that ICT worldwide uses up around 8 to 10% of all energy, even more than aviation. Well, I was shocked. So let's find out more about sustainability and how to make your website more sustainable with Charlotte Bax.
Thank you. Thank you, Jose. Thank you. Thank you all for being here this early in the morning. It's amazing to see this many people in the room. Last time I did a presentation, there were only 4. Anyway, first things first, I have a little request to make before I start my presentation. Yesterday, during Contributor Day, there was no official sustainability table. There was no table lead because the sustainability team had been cancelled. We started a petition to reinstate the sustainability team to their former official status. I already passed this petition to a lot of people. They signed it, and I hope some of you today will sign it too. So I will give it to the first person, and if you could just pass it around, I would be really happy. So if anyone who thinks it's important, there is a sustainability team, please sign the petition. So now back to where you all came for. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. One of my favorite quotes. Our internet is a bit like magic. We can do all kinds of wonderful things, such as keep into contact with your grandma when you're traveling the world, or we have access to a host of information, like super easy. And also, you can get in touch with people with the same weird niche hobby as you do. It's wonderful, and I cannot imagine a world without the internet. But our internet has a deep, dark secret. It has an enormous environmental footprint. Today, I will talk a bit about that environmental impact of the internet. I will show you how to estimate the CO2 emissions of your website. And also, I give you some tips to make your website more sustainable. In 2023, ICT was responsible for 10% of global energy consumption. 10%. That is a lot. That is insane. That is more than aviation, as José said. But not all of the environmental impact is energy usage. Of course, there's the energy usage of all that hardware just running 24/7. But there's also embodied carbon from the production of all those machines, your computers, your phones, servers, data centers, Wi-Fi boxes, routers, etc., cables, satellites. The production of electronics is really dirty. It takes up a lot of resources and energy. Also, there's water usage. Data centers need a lot of water for cooling. And at the end of the day, it all becomes e-waste of almost everything. Not that much gets recycled, which is a pity. Most of it ends up in landfill, leaking toxins when it degrades slowly under influence of the UV light from the sun, or it just gets burned, which also releases a lot of toxins, which is kind of sad. And it's easy to point the finger to AI with its huge energy footprint. But I think that's too easy. we are part of a system, a wasteful system, and in the digital sector, a lot of energy gets wasted. And one of the easiest ways to start to reduce that environmental impact is by making your website more green. So why would you want to do that? Well, first of all, your website gets more resource efficient, which means less waste, obviously. But also, if you handle your website in a more sustainable and responsible manner, you can stay on a smaller hosting plan for longer, which means it's just cheaper. And we all like that, don't we? Also, there's the performance optimization. Sustainability goes hand in hand with that. And that's good for user experience, but also search engine bots really love that. So another win. And also, the third and the fourth point, they sort of go together. When you are a sustainable business, you of course want your entire business operations to be in line with your core values. And if you don't, if you have a dirty website that emits a lot of emissions, then that's bad for your reputation. It could damage your reputation. So, in the end, a sustainable website is not only better for the planet, but also better for you. So where do we get started? Well, with getting insights. You want to know where you stand right now. For that, we need a little background information. The data journey you can split up in sort of 3 different sections. You have the server-side processing, which happens in the data centers. You have data traffic. And then you have the client-side processing, which is in the browser of your website visitor. There are 2 companies, Whole Grain Digital and Mighty Bytes. They made this sustainable web design model and a formula to calculate CO2 emissions from data traffic. And there's a little disclaimer with that. You can't just relate data traffic linearly to CO2 emissions. But for ease of use, they made it that way by distributing the embodied carbon and things like idle energy usage over all the data traffic. So the formula is easy to use. And a good rule of thumb is that a sustainable web page is like label A+ to label B, which corresponds to a web page that is less than 1 megabyte big. The energy labels, yeah, they are a lot like the energy labels of your house or of your fridge. It's really, really easy to use. But of course, the page weight is not the only factor. Of course, you have to multiply that with the amount of page visits to get the total CO2 emissions over time. Which means, of course, if you have a high page weight and a lot of visitors, that means there is a lot of room for improvement. But also, if you don't have that much visitors, it can really have an impact to make your website more sustainable. So how do we get those numbers? Well, luckily, there are a lot of tools already online available for getting those numbers, and I will run you through some of my favorites. First up is the greenwebfoundation.org. Here you can check whether your website is hosted on renewable energy or not, which is a really big thing. Like, you don't want your website to be hosted on fossil fuels, right? Next up, websitecarbon.com. They are made by Whole Grain Digital and the OG of website carbon calculators. I really appreciate their work. What they do is they show you the page weight, the total page weight, and they calculate the CO2 emissions from that. And also they make it visible where you are on that energy label scale, which is really nice. Next up is digitalbeacon.co. This has been one of my favorites for a long time because they do something extra. Besides just giving the total page weight and CO2 emissions, they also break it down into asset categories. So you get a bit of a gist where your problem areas are, which is really nice when you start making it more sustainable. Also, there's ecograder.com. This one is made by Tim Frick from Mighty Bytes, if I'm correct. What I think is really nice about this tool is they don't only calculate your page weight and CO2 emissions, but they also assess your UX design a bit, and they give tips on what to get started on, basically, which is really nice. It's a little specialized tool, RMI Third Parties Green.com. This one is made by Fershad Irani. He is also one of the pioneers in website sustainability. What this tool does is that it assesses all the third-party assets on a web page and whether they are hosted green or not. And sometimes the results may really surprise you. I can tell you from experience. This one, carbonfooter.nl, it's quite a new tool. It's made by Danny Komen. This one is for the Dutchies. It is a bit like EcoGrader in the sense that it gives you tips on how to make your website more sustainable. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. Where EcoGrader, the tips are a bit more nerd speak. I have the feeling that they are based on Google PageSpeed insights. The tips from carbonfooter.nl, they are more comprehensible for like the common folk, like me. And last but not least, my own tooling, the NR QuickScan, formerly known as DigiHobbit EcoTool. When I was making websites and getting more into sustainability, I wanted to prove to my clients that the websites I built were actually sustainably built or more sustainable than their old websites. So I wanted to compare them. But copy-pasting all the page URLs to a tool like Website Carbon, that just takes one hell of a time. Nobody's got time for that. So I asked a friend to make a tool that does this like in bulk. So you put in your sitemap and it gives a really nice overview of all the pages on your website with the page weight, the CO2 emissions, the energy labels, and the areas of improvement. This is not publicly available yet, but if you want a demo account, just talk to me during lunchtime or something, and yeah, I will put you on the list so that I can make a demo account for you after WordCamp. So when you have the numbers, you want to get to actually making your website more sustainable. How do we do that? Well, I give you some tips in some areas. There are a lot of areas you can make your website more sustainable. For example, hosting, of course, the architecture of your website, you have the design of your website and the content creation. Also, caching plays a huge role in reducing energy usage from computing, server side, and also from loading assets that you only have to load once, and then, well, it's really nice. There's visitor management. Joost de Valk did a really great talk on this on WordCamp the Netherlands in 2022. And I highly recommend that you look that up on YouTube because it's really, really interesting. And as a cherry on top, you can make your website grid aware. Currently, Fershad Irani is making a toolkit for grid aware websites under the flag of the Green Web Foundation. And what that does is that you give a more minimal or a more rich experience to your website visitor based on the energy mix of the local energy grid. So for example, if you visit a website while the energy grid is for a big percentage made up of fossil fueled energy, then you get a more minimal experience. And if your visitor is on a grid that is more renewable energy, then they get a more rich experience of the website. So that's a really nice toolkit. He is working on it right now, but he is looking for Dutch web developers and websites to implement this, to experiment with this. So contact him or just talk to me and I will link you to Fershad. Yeah, it's a really nice tool. So we're diving into some of these things a bit more. Because of time, I can't do everything, but I give you some quick tips. Hosting, of course, choose a web host that uses green energy. That's a no-brainer. But what you also can do is that you can look what other things your web host does in the field of sustainability. For example, reusing waste heat. The Dutch company Leaf Cloud does that really good. They have these decentralized servers, and with the waste heat, they heat homes, they heat offices, they heat even swimming pools. It's really cool. Also, you can check whether they make sustainable hardware choices. For example, Halvar, I think Ramon is somewhere, there, in the room. They have a really good policy on using and reusing refurbished hardware, which I think is really, really nice. So that's some things you can look into when choosing your web host. Then on to UX design, it is really important that your visitor can, of course, find what they are looking for as easily as possible. So remove unnecessary clutter from your website. Don't distract them with all kinds of rubbish. Of course, make sure what they are looking for is findable in a logical place. On the page where they expect it to find, and that everything is in the right menu, header, footer, sidebar, whatever. And of course, use correct semantic code so that your website is efficiently crawlable by bots. Then we dive more into the foundations, more the WordPress side of things. You can't have a sustainable website with a really heavy base. That's just not possible because the base weight of your pages is already so big. So you have to choose a lightweight theme. There are some really nice themes. For example, Astra theme and Cadence are two of my favorites. I've heard some really good things about the block theme editor, but I haven't used that myself yet. I still have to experiment with that. But try to pick a lightweight theme. Also, be picky in your plugins. What I see happening a lot is that people use plugins for stuff you don't need a plugin for. For example, SSL certificates or redirections. You could do that in your hosting dashboard. You don't need a plugin for that. And that saves some extra computing energy. And also, this is not really a foundation thing, but more an overall thing. Please refrain from using unnecessary animations. Animations is computing, is energy. And sometimes I see those really cool and modern companies that have really cool and modern websites, and everything is animated, everything moves, which is not only a lot of computing for something unnecessary, but it's also super annoying for your visitor. And I see someone like nodding. I'm not an expert on this, but probably it's really bad for accessibility as well. Am I right? Yes. Well, onto your content. Images is something, it's a pain point for a lot of websites. On many websites, you see lots of images, and sometimes I think, here was someone that was really afraid of being boring. And what I want to urge you to use images when they are valuable to your content. Don't use images because you're afraid that someone is afraid of text or something. But be picky in your images. If you can, please choose vector whenever possible, for example, for your logos, for icons, some kinds of illustration styles. They are also really suitable to use the vector format. And if you have to use a pixel image, for example, a photo, resize them and convert them to a lightweight, web-friendly format such as WebP or AVIF before uploading it to your website. It really saves a lot of energy. Then onto media. You see this on not that many websites, not on all websites, but when done wrong, it can add a lot of bulk, a lot of data traffic, and therefore a lot of CO2 emissions to your web page. When you use media, only use it when it actually adds value. And And when you put a video or audio on your website, please use preload is none in your HTML code. Because what this does, when you don't use it, the video gets loaded whether someone wants to view it or not. So that means they get all those megabytes shoved down their throat, even when they don't want to watch the video. So if you do use preload is none, that doesn't happen. The video gets loaded when someone actually wants to view it. And what a lot of people do, and me too, we use video embeds from YouTube, from Vimeo. It's a really easy way to get video on your website. They do the preload is none thing really good, which is nice. But what they do is that they also put a lot of tracking scripts on that page. For example, when you put a YouTube video on a web page, that can add up to like 0.5 megabyte of tracking scripts. And that is only the weight of the text file, of the plain text of the scripts. A little trick I like to use to manage that is I put an image thumbnail on the page. When someone clicks on that, it opens up a modal. And in that modal is a video. So the video, the tracking scripts, everything, it only gets loaded when you actually click on that thumbnail. So that's a really nice trick to use. And last but not least, fonts. They can add unexpected bulk to your website. Of course, they are a really big part of your branding, an essential part, some might say. But what I also see is that graphic designers, sorry guys, they recommend fonts, for example, for body text that are very similar to system fonts. And what I like to do is just switch them out for system fonts. Of course, first I ask my client if they are okay with that. So you don't have to load an entire font for something that could easily be done with a system font. And then for the heading fonts, I do use the branding font, which is a really nice balance between keeping the branding recognizable and sustainability. Of course, I convert those fonts to WOF or WOF2 format, which is a lightweight, web-friendly format for fonts. And the last thing I want to touch on is icon libraries. On lots of websites, I see that entire icon libraries get loaded as fonts, while you only use 3, 4, 5 of those icons, which is a lot of weight for something really small. I have seen web pages that load 9 libraries of Font Awesome for like 5 icons. It's insane. It was like 700 kilobytes or something. It was crazy. But what I want to tell you is upload those single icons as vector images or something. Usually they are less than 1 kilobyte big, so that really saves a lot of data traffic and therefore a lot of energy. So that's the tips I have to give you that you can get started on really easily. If you think, well, making one website sustainable, that doesn't really matter, right? Well, I have to tell you, even the smallest person can change the course of the future, and together we can make a really, really big impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Amazing talk. So we have a very short time for a quick question. 4 minutes only for a very quick question. Anyone wants to make a question? Yes, your time. Here and there. Sorry, we have only one question. Time for one question on here.
Oh boy.
So I'm a theme and plugin developer.
Yes.
And what I like to offer my users are features. And one of the features I like to offer them is pick any icon you want from Font Awesome and use it. So obviously, in order to do that, to simplify it, I just load Font Awesome, and then they can see their entire list and just pick this, and then they show that icon there. I was wondering if you have a suggestion to optimize this in a way so they don't have to load the entire icon library on the front end, maybe yes when they choose on the back end.
Yes. Yeah, there's indeed a little difference between like back-end and front-end. The tips I gave were mostly for front-end. And what you can do is see what, for example, Cadence Blocks does. They also provide their users with the entire Font Awesome library, but on the front end, they only load that one icon. They do that really good. So check out how they do that. I could recommend. And also what they do is they provide this function in the Pro add-on that you can upload your own icons. So that's also an option you can play with.
Thank you, Charlotte. And I have something for you. Okay?
Thank you very
A
much.
gift from the organization. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes.
Charlotte Bax, everyone.